And so I've got a weird idea. What if compact machines had this feature where if you stand in this field projector and shrink yourself with it, you actually get sent to another dimension? Wouldn't that be cool? Anyways, hello, welcome back to another episode of Compact Claustrophobia. So I got some pretty good news to start us off with today. After about a year and a half of recording on YouTube, I finally have a mic arm that goes under my monitor. And this is kind of a big deal for me because, believe it or not, the last mic arm that I had was an overhead one, and that thing was blocking half of my screen the entire time. So, meaning that now that I have this lower profile mic arm, I can actually see the entire screen. That's a big deal, which should mean I'm going to be twice as good as a player from now on. Another thing it's going to help out with is repeatability and how good my mic sounds. The main issue I think I was having with my mic sounding different was just the fact that half my screen was being blocked by the mic stand. And why it was such a problem was because, well, I kind of wanted to see my screen. So what would I do while I was recording? I would move to the side so I could look at the screen, but then I wouldn't be talking straight into the mic. So I think it was affecting my mic quality. But now that I got this new mic, it's going to be in a good position for the most part. I just got to train myself to not move back and forth, but that's just part of the process, right? Anyways, let's get into the episode. So on the last episode, we got a second fusion core going. This one's going to be running nonstop, running the deuterium recipe, and this is how we're going to get our neutron fluid. And with this neutron fluid, we're able to get some glowstone, and this is really going to unlock a lot of the pack for us moving forward. But I also mentioned last time that the past couple of episodes has been really grindy, setting up 2 fusion cores, an arc furnace, and a whole bunch of other machines. And I think for this one, I'm going to stick to my word. We're going to take it a little bit easy and check out the other glitched compact machines. So far, we've only visited 2 dimensions, the tiny and the small. And I think on this episode, we should be able to get to medium. I'm not too sure about large, because, the large compact machine is pretty expensive, and I don't really know what's inside the medium machines. I've never seen other gameplay about this mod pack, so going into those compact machine dimensions is going to be a first for me, and if it's a first for you, then that's just going to be a cool experience for us, I think. But I really like how the custom dimensions are a thing in this mod pack, because the first glitch dimension, if you don't remember, was like a parkour map, and then the second one was like a kind of survival map. And then the other 2, I don't even know what they're going to do. I really don't have any ideas of what these are going to be. Probably going to guess a puzzle. And if there's a puzzle map, that'd be really fun. I'd really enjoy something like that. But to get these glitched compact machines, you have to throw them into a poop injector. And I did tear this thing apart because I wanted the small compact machine for something else. I don't really remember. But I did just make another one, so we'll go ahead and set it up again. Okay, here it is, and I'm going to make a promise right now. I won't be tearing this down anymore because we're at a good point where I can reliably make these small compact machines now. I did want to talk about this multi-block for the people who are not really aware of modular machinery. If I check the recipe for the glitched medium machine, the recipe tells you how much fluid you need, how much power, and how much per tick power. And the per tick value is extremely important because if I were to look at the glitched large machine, this one needs 256 FE per tick. But if I look at the tiny energy input hatch that I had before, this one only accepts 128. So if I were to stick with this input hatch, this recipe would fail. And the only way to stop the craft is to break it, which will void your items. So whenever you're playing with the modular machinery mod, you do gotta watch out for this. I went ahead and upgraded to the normal energy input hatch, which is gonna accept 512 FE per tick. And this should be good enough to do both the glitched large machine recipe and the glitched medium machine recipe. And then the other thing, of course, is how much fluid input you need. This recipe is going to ask for 16,000 millibuckets of sewage, so I went ahead and made a reinforced fluid input hatch, which can store that much. So this is hooked up to power, and I should be good to set up the recipe. So I can just put the normal compact machine in there, and then the 16,000 worth of sewage in these reservoirs. And we have our glitched medium machine. Sweet. I'll go ahead and put it here for now, and we're going to go ahead and investigate this dimension, see what it's all about. I'll put all my stuff in this chest here because I don't really know if it's going to delete my items. So let's check this out. Does it need a normal personal shrinking device? No? I'm a little confused. Is there even a dimension for this? Shift right click doesn't work. Uh-oh. This is probably why you should read ahead of time before assuming things. There's actually no other dimensions besides the small and the tiny. And I don't think there's actually anything you can do with this glitched medium machine. There's no uses for it. The large machine does have a use for it, but there's no dimension for this. So I guess I have to apologize for being a little misleading, because I thought there was a dimension for each one. That's just what I assumed, but I guess that's not the case. So I guess this kind of throws a wrench into our plans this episode. But that's okay. Maybe it's the modpack's way of telling us that the grind shouldn't be stopping anytime soon. We got progress to make. So I gave it some thought on what to do next, and I'm thinking the next step is to start working on these giant compact machines. These guys are extremely expensive though. Each one needs 6 large machines. And if I try to craft 6 of those large compact machines, we can do most of it. I need to set up recipes for the nickel grit, but we also need wooden planks. So there's 2 paths that I want to take. The first one is to deal with wood production, and I had talked about it a little earlier, and we're going to be using the phytogenic insulator for this. The other path I'm going to take is actually passiving the items you get from the walls. So I basically want to take away the pickaxe requesting to make the grits, because this does take a while. But if I have dedicated auto clickers that generate all the resources and just have them stored in caches and whatnot, it'll really help us out in the long run, because like I mentioned last episode, this is an expert pack. We're going to get to a point where we see tons of resources being requested. 34,000 uranium and 35,000 iron. We can't support this with our setup right now, so I really need to work on this. So I guess the theme for today's episode is going to change. Instead of being a nice quality of life episode, we're actually going to get even more progress done and continue with fixing some of the issues that we've had in this playthrough. But we'll start off with making the phytogenic insulator. We should be able to craft it. Yes, we can. Okay, so here it is, and I even upgraded it to Signalum tier. I'm going to need a couple of more things for this to work though. So for it to even work with saplings, you need to give it this sapling infuser augment. I made this one earlier, but this is going to let us use saplings in the machine. You'll also notice that every single possible recipe in here is going to need some phytogrow. So I'm also going to have to set up automation for this, which does include nitrate and slag. It's a good thing though that we already have this. I just need to adapt it to work with the new setup. And the idea with the phytogenic insulator is that I'm going to be tearing up this tree farm that we have. And I kind of want to do a more modern approach to tree farm, which of course is just a single machine that generates all of the resources for you. Another thing I'm going to want to make for this is this monoculture cycle augment. And what it does is that it improves automation, so I don't have to keep cycling saplings back and forth. It'll just do it by itself. But this one does need the fluxed phytogrow first. And this is a little more involved because of the rich slag that we need. But we do have a chance to get this in the induction smelter. And I did notice that there's a recipe here that I'm going to try to use. I just need one to get one piece of phytogrow and then turn it into flux phytogrow. And there it is, our one rich slag. And then in order to upgrade this to the fluxed one, we just have to put it into an energetic infuser. And there it is. And we should be able to craft the augment now. Yes. And then I'll go ahead and also make this nutrient recovery augment, which is going to reduce the chance that we consume fertilizer, so I don't have to craft as much. So now with these 3 upgrades, we should be able to process saplings, and also there is more automation so that we don't have to keep piping saplings back and forth, and also there's just less of a chance to consume phytogrow. What I can also notice here is that there's different types of phytogrow that you can use. So if I look at the oak sapling recipes, we can use either the rich stuff, the normal stuff, or the fluxed stuff. I think for our purposes, it's just probably best to use the phytogrow because this machine is going to run basically nonstop. So I'll just stick with this one for now. So let's go ahead and take a visit to our passive box. And I think I can even take care of this machine. This is where we were getting our oak cuttings before. I'm not going to use that anymore. I'm going to rely on the wood now. If I put this machine right here. Oh, you know what it is? I think it's struggling because the electrolyzer just doesn't have enough water to keep this running nonstop. So the water source is trying to put water into the electrolyzer first, but this is always going to be empty, meaning none of the water will be able to go over here. So I have to upgrade that water source. It's getting quite cramped in here. And you know what? I kind of decided that I'm just going to give it its own water source and separate it from this one over here. I guess I'll just put it somewhere up here. This entire room, yes, it's very disorganized, but I'm doing this on purpose. It's just kind of funny for me to have a chaotic setup. By the end of the pack, it's going to look hilarious, I think. Anyways, go ahead and just put this guy right here. And then make sure nothing gets output on the bottom because you're going to get sent into that nullifier, and we don't want that. Right there. So now you accept water just fine. And how this guy is going to work is that it takes a sapling and we give it some phytogrow. And it'll take a little bit to process into a couple of logs. And based on that monoculture augment, it should not consume the oak sapling. So this way we don't have to cycle it back and forth. I guess we'll see that. And there it is. So it's just going to keep doing this over and over again. But again, we do want this phytogrow, so I'm going to have to set up a couple of other machines to get this going. I think what I'm going to do is just borrow, and by borrow I mean steal the machines we have in this room. So this one is going to be the one that actually makes us the phytogrow. And I'm going to be storing it separately in case I want other saplings. And I'm going to change how I play the pack a little bit. And I'm going to be focusing more on passiving resources instead of requesting them all the time. Okay, so I'm going to have a cache here. This cache is going to be storing the phytogrow. And then in order for that cache to get the phytogrow is this sequential fabricator. And I'm running out of space, but you know what, that's fine. Right there. And then I can add a cache here for the wood. Now the next step, just like before, we have to deal with the automation of pulverized charcoal, niter, and slag. But again, we already have systems that do that, so I'm just going to go ahead and adapt them over into this room. This is starting to become a kind of safety violation because I'm having to jump up and down. So let's get some ladders here so I don't keep hurting myself. Anyways, the upper input is going to be pulverized charcoal. Put that guy right there. So now pulverized charcoal should be accounted for. And the cool thing is I have this pattern validation augment, and what it does is that it adds intelligent auto input. 2 slots are designated for each crafting slot. So it's only going to add 2 stacks, I think, and then after that it just won't try to pull anymore. So it won't get flooded with resources and clog our fabricator. And then in order for us to actually get the pulverized charcoal, we have to cook up this oak wood. And to do that, I have to cook it up with the redstone furnace and then throw it into a pulverizer. So now it's going to be cooking up the wood that we produce, makes it into some pulverized charcoal. So I should just be able to put an item duct there. Now all of the pulverized charcoal we make can be put into here. So that is now pulverized charcoal accounted for, and now we're going to need the niter next. So to get the niter, what we were doing is using a manufactory and throwing sandstone into here. Put that guy right there. And in order to get sandstone, we actually need a factorizer. And in order for this to get sand, I'm going to die if I keep doing this. I'm going to be exporting the sand into here. And I forget this is not GTNH. I can't just drag from JEI to do this. Oh well. So now this is going to be the niter accounted for. So that's 2 items done. Next one is slag. So now this is getting a little tricky because the sequential fabricator, it really only has one more slot to work with, which is this one. I was going to put the power there, but I guess not. I'm probably just going to end up putting the power up front, like right there. That should be okay. It's going to look pretty funny, but honestly, with how the rest of this room looks, it won't stick out of place. It's okay. Just seeing this amalgamation of machines, it's just real funny to me. Anyways, to get the slag, what we're doing here is just cycling the induction smelter recipe over and over again to get slag. So it'll go right there. Pulverizer right here to the left. And then I can plug this into an exporter from the bottom and give it sand. So I think all that's left is to start plugging power into these machines. Yeah, this one should be powered. I think I'm just going to do this. And then this one should be powered as well. Yeah, like that. Okay, everything's powered. And then we'll go ahead and connect the refined storage together. So this one can connect right here. And there's another one, right? Yeah, right here. Like that. This is looking atrocious. Biblically accurate phytogenic insulator. Okay, so it looks like everything is working. Everything is powered just fine. And it is producing us our wood, which is great. And now the next step is to actually upgrade everything. I'm going to go ahead and stick with signalum conversion kits. But one thing to keep in mind is that we're actually pretty close to getting to the resonant tier, which needs ender pearls. We don't have an automatic way of doing this because the ender pearl recipe is in the miniaturization craft, and this is a little bit of a challenge to automate, but I have ideas for it, but we'll get into that when we get into it. Right now, let's focus on getting a bunch of upgrades for all of these machines. Okay, So you know how I said last episode that we don't need snowballs? That's kind of a lie. We do need snowballs. That shouldn't be too bad to set up though. I just need a cache and a external storage and we should be good. So our glacial precipitator is right here that actually makes us our snowballs. And I'll just put a cache right here. Yes, and then we'll go ahead and lock it like that. And then I can slap on a external storage and then connect it to our refined storage, just like that. So now we should have access to snowballs. Sweet. And of course we have the same issue we did last time where this isn't enough water. So I guess I do have to upgrade it. Fine. So I also upgraded these machines over to Signalum tier and added some of these reception coils. And I'm thinking for the phytogenic insulator, I'm going to take off this nutrient recovery augment and just put the reception coil there just to speed it up a little bit. Because I figure that we're actually making way more phytogrow than we're actually consuming. So it should be more beneficial for us to increase the speed instead of preserving the phytogrow. Next up, I want to access the item, so I just need an external storage onto this cache. So I was watching this setup for a little bit, and I think we have some issues here. You can see here that the cache is a little bit empty, and that's because it has to wait for the phytogrow to pile up and also the pulverized charcoal up there to pile up. These caches can store 20,000. I don't really have an issue with the phytogrow right now, but I do have an issue with the pulverized charcoal. This is going to take forever to pile up. So what I was thinking is instead of having a cache, I'm just going to push the pulverized charcoal directly into the sequential fabricator instead. And then just not have an external storage for the pulverized charcoal. And if we need it for any recipes in our crafting, we just use whatever wood we have and turn that into pulverized charcoal. This way, we don't have to wait forever for the wood to pile up. So I left this running for a little bit, and we now have 700 wood piled up in our cache. That's a pretty good number for now. Okay, so now that we have a better tree farm, we can finally tear down this old one. So I do have a plan for this room. I'm going to be cramming it full of auto clickers to give us all of our passive resources. It's definitely something I need to do, right? Because I showed it earlier. We're going to need tens of thousands of dusts, and our current setup is not really going to cut it. So I really got to do something about it. And you would have never known that there's an entire tree farm in here. So I've been thinking about what to do about the auto clickers, and I've decided that I'm just going to have a bunch of exporters going into them. And these exporters are going to have whatever pickaxe it decide with crafting upgrades. Right now I'm going to plan for 12 different pickaxes, which means 12 different auto clickers and 12 exporters and whatnot. And whatever resources they produce is going to be stored in a bunch of caches, and this is going to be accessed in our storage with external storage buses. This is going to be a very expensive project, but we're way past due for this. We really need the upgrades. The most expensive part of this project is going to be the exporters and the external storages because they need diamond nuggies. So place your bets. 4 stacks of hop graphite. How many nuggets am I going to get? I'm going to guess a stack. We'll see. Not that far. 52. That's pretty good, actually. I'm also going to move this compact machine to the left a little bit. This way it also touches the refined storage so I can have access to the cables there. And this is kind of the idea with how the rest of this is. You'll notice that almost every compact machine somehow has access to refined storage and power on the back. I'm not saying that this is the best setup, but it does work for me. So I'll keep it like this. So I got a weird idea to set up these auto clickers. I'm just going to cram them in this corner over here. Please face the right way, sir. So I'm pretty much just going to have 2 columns of auto clickers that are going to pummel this entire corner over here. And then we pick up the resources with the accumulator. And then we'll just go ahead and power them with the Signalum cable like this. Right there. And then we'll connect it to power with the tunnel. Right there. And then we have to set every single one of these to 5. And I think I mentioned it a couple episodes where setting 5 is probably your best bet because that's just how fast the pickaxes mine. Any faster, you won't really see any difference. Okay, so now they're all set up with left click, and the next step is just to give them some picks. And that's what these exporters are going to be for. And I made an exporter for every single one of them. And I'm also going to give each of them a crafting upgrade. Oh, not all of them, just one. One crafting upgrade each. And the good thing about this size of compact machine is I'm probably going to need more auto clickers in the future. We got space for 2 more, but I'm also going to add them into this corner over here if we do end up needing more space. You got a corner there as well. I'm going to put all of the storage caches in another machine within this machine, just so that it keeps all of the stuff separate. But before I start adding picks into here, well, first of all, I have to connect it to our refined storage system. And we'll just connect it like this. And then I guess I can have that cable right there and touching the crafter manager. So now all of this stuff is connected to our refined storage. And before I start putting picks into here, I have to think about how many resources it's going to produce. So for example, one of them is going to be the iron pickaxe. If I check here, I have to have a cache for every single resource this produces, so we don't have any issues with items lying around. And this is going to mean that we need a ton of caches because some of these picks will generate more than one resource. So we're going to have more than 12 caches in the end. But we'll start off with iron picks first. This one is going to be giving us gold, silver, redstone, flint, and uranium, I think. So we'll need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 caches. And then I'll put the accumulator right there. It's going to pick up all the items that the clickers drop and push them into this compact machine, which is going to have all of our caches. And right here is where we'll get the items from the accumulator and then pump them into the caches using some item ducts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is not an empty cache. I think I'm just going to delete this one. We don't need that many saplings. And then we'll see if it actually works. So the bottom one is going to be the iron pick. I'll go ahead and put it right there. This is actually getting the resources now. And if I check inside here, we have all of those being produced now. Now we have the iron pickaxe fully accounted for. And then the next step is to connect it to our external storages. And then 5 external storages right here. And then we'll connect it to our refined storage on the north side. And then connect it right over here. There we go. So now all of this stuff is going to show up in our refined storage. I'm pretty much just going to do the same thing for the rest of these items. For example, the steel pick is going to give us lapis, nether quartz, thorium, and some flint and lithium, a whole bunch of stuff, right? And I'm just going to go down this list, adding caches and adding external storages for all the resources that we're going to get from all of these picks. And by the end, we should see a pretty big wall and a lot more resources accounted for. It's going to be very helpful for us. Oh, and I might as well upgrade all of them to Signalum tier, so they can store an inappropriate amount of items. I think it's like 300,000 or something like that. That's going to last us a very long time. Anyways, let me take care of all of these picks, and I'll be right back when I'm finished. Oh yeah, check it out. Look at all these resources being produced. So one thing I didn't really consider is this accumulator. I don't know if it's strong enough. It kind of struggles, but I think it's okay. I'm going to leave it like this for now and trust that it works. But one thing you notice here is that there's gravel and dirt dust. And this stuff is produced by punching the rock barehanded like that. And from what I understand about these auto clickers, they pretend to be a fake player, and I think that fake player has health. And for some reason, whenever I rejoin the world, they regain that health, and then they punch the wall for a little bit, and that's how we get this stuff here. I don't know, I'm kind of curious, but I should probably account for this stuff anyways, and my idea is to use a dense item duct. And I think with how this one works, it says here it increases the path length dramatically. So this sounds like something I've played with in GregTech, the restrictive item pipes, and I think the idea with it is the same, where anything that's connected to it has a lower priority. So what I'm going to do is just put a nullifier in the corner here, connect it to a dense item duct, and then connect to the rest of the network. And this should also address these caches if they ever get full, or when they ever get full. We have a lot of space to go, right? It's like I mentioned, this is about 300,000 items of space each cache. But eventually it's going to get full if I leave it running long enough. And this nullifier is going to help. Yeah, I should probably add another accumulator. And then give them both a servo. I don't think this is working how I intend. So I'm going to have to think about some other solution for item transfer because these clickers are generating a good amount of items. Okay, so I think I know what's going on. The servo in the compact machine prioritizes the first items, and it just keeps pulling them in order. But because we keep getting fresh items into the accumulator, it'll just keep pulling that same item over and over again because we're producing more items than the extraction rate of the servo itself. So I want to try something funny. So I have these retrievers here, and I'm going to be plugging them into the back of every single cache and then removing that servo so that the servo doesn't control the pool of the items, the caches do. And I'm hoping with each one having a separate filter, it should be able to pull the items from the accumulator just fine. So we'll give it a try, but I'm going to have to really get into the spaghetti because it's kind of a mess here. And I should take care of this fast because while this is unplugged, all of the items from the clickers are just going to pile up. So I should really hurry up here. Okay, so they all have retrievers now, and let's go check out the accumulator if it's struggling or not. Oh, look at that. That's what it was. He's so smart. Nah. You just gotta dig into it sometimes and you'll figure out anything. And I almost forgot. I also have to add a retriever for this guy too. Otherwise, we won't be able to avoid the dirt and the gravel dust that can pile up sometimes. Hopefully you don't pull any items into it. It doesn't look like it. I think the rules still apply for the dense item duct so that it prioritizes this one last. The network is going to put all the stuff into the caches first, in other words. And then one last check. Check it out. Completely empty. I gotta say, I really do appreciate Compact Claustrophobia. It's making me use thermodynamics much more than I usually do. Most of the time, whenever I'm doing item transfer, I use Ender IO conduits. These guys are actually really good, and they also have a lot more functionality. But I'm not really using them this playthrough because they need Ender Pearls, and I really don't want to deal with that. That's very expensive. But still, I'm really glad that it's making me use thermodynamics. I really like learning mods and how they work. And every day I play this pack, I learn something new about this stuff. It's great. Uh-oh, I think we have another issue we have to solve. I was watching the clickers for a little bit and I realized something interesting. So if I take a look at the tough alloy pick in this clicker, you see here that it's losing durability, right? This is expected, of course. But if I look at the one that's opposite, which is the aluminum, the durability isn't going down, so this clicker isn't actually working. Now, this is where it gets weird. If I tell the tough alloy pick to stop running, so right now it's not using the durability, now this one works. And I was thinking about it, like, what the heck is happening? I think what's happening is that they're sharing a block space. And also, you can see this kind of thing happening with the other clickers as well. So if I go down a little bit, let's look at the next one, which is Constant Tan. You see how this one's not losing durability, but the bronze pickaxe is. And if I shut off the bronze pick, the Constant Tan starts losing durability. So this setup isn't going to work because the clickers are sharing a block space, and I'm guessing they're competing with each other. So I'm going to have to separate them. This shouldn't be too bad, though. And this is what I'm thinking. I'm going to put them across on this side, just to make sure that they don't interfere with each other in the same block space like it was happening over there. I also had to turn off the accumulator because one thing I forgot to mention is that there's no filter on the nullifier, right? So if something were to go in there that I don't want, for example, if I were to put my exporter here, bye exporter, it will get deleted. That's kind of the dangerous thing when you have a trash can that doesn't care about filtering. The smart thing would be to just whitelist only the dusts that the clickers produced, but I'm not smart. Oh yeah, there it is. It's making so much more stuff now. I have no idea if the accumulator can handle it. We'll see though. I'm going to turn it on, and then we'll watch it for a little bit, make sure that it actually is able to push all the items out. Oh, it looks like it's doing pretty good. I'm actually kind of impressed. Good job. But that's good to know, actually. I didn't consider that. If clickers share the same space, they won't be able to run. I guess it kind of makes sense because one of the quests here about the auto clicker, it does say auto clickers need space too, you know. Make sure to have at least one block distance. Maybe that's what it's talking about, where that fake player does need that extra block space. Pretty interesting, but it looks like this should be good, and we're actually now generating even more resources than I initially thought. And look at all that item transfer. I love that. And again, double check. There's nothing going in here that should not belong. Except for gravel and dirt, right? But we don't get that too often. What happens if I walk in there? I'm very curious. Oh, no, get me out, get me out. Yeah, don't go in there. I mean, what was I really expecting to happen? Anyways, I think this is a pretty good stopping point for this episode. We made some really good progress in our resource production, finally. Now we're generating a ton more resources, and it's going to help us a ton in the long run. Especially once we start crafting the next tier of compact machine, the giant one. Because remember, each one needs 6 large machines. Just this craft here is already using tens of thousands of resources. So we definitely needed to do this sort of upgrade. And not only that, we also made the biblically accurate phytogenic insulator for, check it out, so much more wood. We're almost filled. Actually, let me just, there we go. Will I ever need 300,000 wood? Probably not, but it's definitely a good idea to upgrade it anyways. Might as well. I also wanted to mention something else. I've been upgrading some machines off camera. I don't really show the machine upgrades because there's a lot of them, but just know that it is something that's a work in progress. But I guess an example I can show you is our Coke producer. I just do this off camera, right? But I just wanted to show you guys real quick that, yes, I do upgrade my machines to make it work a little faster. Anyways, this episode didn't turn out like I thought it was going to be. I was initially intending it to be more dimension exploration, right? But we found out the hard way that there actually isn't any other dimensions. I probably should have read up on that before I started, right? But I'm glad we did all of this stuff today because we were desperately lacking in the resources. And I'm trying to improve my playstyle as a modded Minecraft player in the sense that trying to passive more resources, especially for expert packs. You're going to need a ton of things. There's no doubt about it. So I'm trying to come to that understanding, right? If I need something, might as well mass produce it. You're going to need it. For now, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I know I did. Take care, have a good day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.